Hello friends, today I'll be showing you the doll that I made for Mermaid this year. I've been wanting to make a Magikarp doll forever and I thought she'd make a fantastic mermaid. I didn't want to sculpt a tail this year, which is why I made that removable tail that's available in the description box below. But because her tail is removable, I wanted to also make her a leg costume, or a costume for when she has legs. And I thought she'd look super cute to be kind of like inspired by a Pokemon trainer as well. So this is the doll I ended up creating. Because I've never had an original thought in my life, I thought I'd use Laguna, the mermaid doll, to make a mermaid. I've actually already got one that I bought pre-prepped. She's a little bit discoloured, but it's not a problem because I'm going to be colour changing her anyway. I do need to take off her head though, so I used my hairdryer to heat up the vinyl of the head and then tried to pull it off. And did every doll customizer's worst nightmare, I snapped the neck peg. This is repairable, but because I have quite a lot of stock and actually because I'm doing a colour change, I don't want Laguna's fins anyway. I decided to use a Creator Monster body. These are really good for a colour change and I'll show you for why later. Online there are lots of explanations on how to repair a neck peg and I'll leave one linked. I'm using this beautiful natural fibre from Tregaver fibres. It's a tease water. I learned when doing the reroute on my cottagecore doll that this is not a fibre that I want to reroute with. I did consider it and then realised I'd much rather make a wig. So I'm going to show you how I make a wig cap. I'm using a square of stretchy fabric and then this is a piece of plastic I cut from a plastic bag. I cover the doll's head with the plastic first and then with that stretchy fabric. I'm using loom bands to hold this down. Tiny little elastic bands are really useful for this. And then all the wrinkles, I'm trying to push them to the back of the head because this will be covered by the majority of the hair. Then I'm just using some thin PVA glue and I use my finger to rub that into the wig cap. The first layer will soak in quite a lot. I find that a thin PVA works better for this than the thick PVA. I want the first layer at least to soak in to make that fabric quite solid. I use my finger because you don't like lose it and they're really easy to clean. Anyway, I let that dry and I do 2 more coats. I always do 3 coats, that's what I was taught works well. So once that's dry, it should be pretty firm. I'm just using a regular graphite pencil to draw around the ears. I know this part needs cutting out. And then quite conservatively, I cut the excess off the wig cap. I then put the wig cap back on the doll and I draw again where the hairline is. So I draw the front hairline and the back and what else needs trimming off, and I trim that to more closely fit where the reroute holes are for the doll. I then trim it again. I find it better to trim a little bit at a time because it's easy to over trim and then need to make a completely new wig cap. So go slow and do this in different sections if you need to. This hair is already in locks, so I didn't want to make it into wefts. I didn't think it was necessary. I'm just going to use hot glue and glue it straight to the wig cap. I'm making sure to cover the doll's head with the same plastic again. I put her onto a cam body as well because I find it easier to get a elastic band around that plastic around her neck. I drew that parting line just to make sure kind of where I'm going, and I'm starting from the bottom and working towards the parting. I used the most vibrant colours at the bottom and then came up to the lighter ones at top because I thought that would look kind of more like a real hair, like gets lightened by the sun. This is the silicone finger protector. My glue gun is very, very hot, so I could still feel the glue through it. I found that if I just let it cool a little bit before pressing it, it was bearable. Be careful if you do this. I used a toothbrush and a little bit of water to try and tame the hair down a little bit and make it lie flatter. I used my own mermaid fin and tail pattern to make this, but I'm adapting the fins. Cut fin 2 out and then kind of lowered the middle a little bit. And then from the back, I used like the profile of some of the fins to then sketch the shape that I wanted. So the side fins are the same as Magikarp's and the back fin is going to be a crown. Here I'm sketching kind of an outline that I'm going to add with vinyl. I then cut the 2 fin pieces that are going to be in hollow out of cardboard, because then I can use those as a guide to cut the fabric with a soldering iron. This is a very unstable synthetic fabric, but because it's synthetic, the soldering iron is going to melt it. So like you would with a plastic satin ribbon, you melt it with a lighter, right? I'm doing the same but with the soldering iron. I got this idea from the concept of a hot knife, but they're like 80 quid. A soldering iron nib is barely any money, and I already have the soldering iron. If you do this, be careful, it's hot, obviously. You get a straighter line if you move quickly, but obviously this isn't a safe thing to do. The cardboard's going to burn as well. Be careful. I trimmed the parts of the pattern that I wanted to be in vinyl. I was hoping that my Cricut would have arrived in time for me to do this project, but it hadn't, so I ended up cutting the vinyl with a craft knife. And it turned out alright actually. It's not an impossible task. Hashtag not sponsored. This was my first experience with any type of iron on vinyl and I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty effective. I liked the results. Mermaid hair! I dyed my hair blue. All of the hollow, or iridescent, I guess, iridescent pieces are going to be sandwiched between vinyl, so I didn't cut them very accurately. I cut that curve and then I'm going to trim around the rest of it later, and I did this with both sides because I just didn't really have much confidence with my accuracy of like applying this well. The waist fins and the back fin are both going to have vinyl as well, and I just ironed those onto some yellow fabric. The vinyl mostly stops the fabric from fraying, which is pretty cool. There is some overlap, I'm not too mad, and then I just trimmed the extra off with a pair of scissors. I made 2 of the vinyl crown pieces and then I'm just sewing those 2 right sides together. Then I'm going to turn them out so I can stuff it. I thought that would look the cutest. I do actually really love how it turned out. I'm making sure to clip those little indents to make sure it'll turn properly. If I did this again, I think I would not cut the crown vinyl shapes first because there were some kind of edges where it didn't quite go up to, or iron on the vinyl after. I then put it together in the same way that I put together the pink tail in the mermaid tail videos. That's linked in the corner, check it out if you're interested. I had an idea in my head of how the tail would look, but I don't think I thought it would look so Magikarp-y. I think it does look really Magikarp-y and I'm pretty proud of myself. I wasn't super sure about adding these black lines, but I think it's just that little addition that Magikarp needs. The nightmare fabric that is this hollow pulled out on this side, and it's because I trimmed it too far on the insides. Lesson learned, keep a little bit more seam allowance. So full disclosure on this top, I did not want to do the face up on this doll. When dolls have had a colour change, it's much more of a pain to take their face off and start again. I also did not want to make a triangle bikini for this doll because I knew it was going to be all kinds of fiddly. To put off doing the face up, I made the triangle bikini. A few people were quite interested in this and I didn't film it particularly well, so I think I'm going to make a separate video on how to make this top. And I'll include the pattern as well. It's a simple one to make yourself, but also it's not a huge thing for me to like make and share, so I shall do that. I was thinking about splitting my videos across 2 channels, so having this one just for doll repaints and then making another one for sewing and patterns. Let me know in the description box if you think that's a good idea. I'd probably put live streams over there as well. Not sure, let me know what you think. I had a really clear idea of what I wanted for her human outfit. I've been working on these jeans for ages, so I knew I wanted her to have those, and then when I asked people what should go with a pair of jean shorts, they all said a crop top, and I thought that was perfect. So I made this little crop t-shirt. I have quite a few t-shirt patterns which I'm thinking of releasing. As always, let me know if you want them. Then I'll see. But also, because she's Magikarp, I was like, well, who would she like idolize? Who would she want on a t-shirt? And I was like, well, clearly Gyarados. So I put Gyarados on a t-shirt for her. I don't know, which also makes me think that I want to do a Gyarados mermaid, so maybe that'll be next mermaid. We'll see anyway. I printed different sizes of Gyarados on temporary tattoo printable paper. I saw Hextian doing this and I thought it was genius and wanted to give it a try, and it worked pretty well. I want the t-shirt to look like she cropped it herself, so that pointy bit in the bottom is supposed to be a tie, but it's too tiny to tie with my fingers, so I just ended up kind of gathering it, and I think it looks pretty okay. Not tired, but not far off. I've been working on this shorts pattern for a while. It's extendable to full jeans. I am going to release it. It still needs more work. This is a prototype still, but it has real working pockets. Yeah, I don't know why. It's in my head. I desperately want to make a pair of doll jeans that have working pockets and open in the front. If it opens in the back, it's much easier to do. It is a fiddly AF, and actually the front pockets are kind of the least fiddly thing to put on. It's the waistband that's a struggle, but they're just so adorable. Oh my gosh, yeah, like it will be available. I just think that's so cute. I had a couple of pairs of blue sandal shoes. I cut off the upper and then used putty to fill in the holes because I just want it to be like completely plain. I really want to have like quite a versatile shoe base, and that's what I'm aiming for here. I added Tamiya putty to try and fill in those the gaps in the base, and then let that dry, sanded it back, added more putty, let it dry, sanded it back. Kept doing it until I got like as close as I could to what I thought was flat. It wasn't quite good enough. I used a 2-part silicone mold putty. I should have used a liquid silicone, but I didn't have one at the time and I thought this would work. I do have one now, so I'll be remaking the mold. This mold had a lot of faults, so I'm definitely going to remake it. But one thing that I don't know why happened was that the resin pieces came out completely cloudy. So cloudy, rough on the surface. I ended up giving them a coat of clear gel polish, which brought the shine back. But I don't know why they came out looking like fruit pastels or like Sour Patch Kids. So let me know what I'm doing wrong in the comments. Pretty please. Really appreciate it. The first uppers I made, I put on Instagram. I hated them. I made them out of Warbler and gel polish. I decided to remake them. Recently I've been making clothes patterns with foil rather than cling film, and I find it so much better. Like, it actually holds onto the doll and you don't end up with it like wrapped around yourself. And proper painter's tape as well, holds on way better than washi tape. Life changed. So I decided to use the same vinyl and just yellow fabric to make the king shapes for the top of the shoes, and I like it way better like this. In my imagination, this was where the outfit kind of ended, but it just didn't look complete. So I decided to use the same fabric that I used for the tail to make her like a bomber jacket. And I was like, well, who has a pattern for a bomber jacket? I do. So the pattern that I made for the cottagecore collab for the cardigan, I just used that. The only adaptations I made were that I literally cropped it. I didn't cut it until after I'd sewn it. I did check that it would be enough fabric because I only have this tiny piece of orange left. So I'm just trying to use as much as I can and then figure out how short I want it later. Those little pieces of zipper that I added on the front won't be functional. I don't have a bottom opening zipper. I Sew for Dolls actually has doll size zippers that open at the bottom, and that would have been perfect for this, but I would never have gotten it in time. These kind of bomber jackets are massively popular in Japan. Like, they went out of fashion for a bit, they've come back in. The kind that have huge embroidery on the back, and so she had to have a crown. Magikarp is called Koi King in Japan, and that like makes sense, right? King Koi, Koi King, King Koi? One of the two. Somebody let me know. I actually think this jacket is my favourite part of the entire repaint. I think it came out so incredibly cute and it just looks so Magikarp. I think all creator monsters have these holes in the back for a tail and wings. I filled it with epoxy, I'm sanding it down. This is why I love creator monsters for colour changes. The parts that have like a connector, so like, you know, from the wrist there's the little pokey bit, those I wrapped a thin jewellery wire around so that I can hang them off a cocktail stick that's hanging inside this box. And then the thighs, which don't have that connector, I've shoved some blue tack inside the hole and then added a barbecue skewer so that I can stand them up so that they won't touch anything. I'm pretty sure I did this on live stream. I did have a respirator on, but I forgot to put gloves on. The gloves were on the table. Like, my ADHD at this point is completely debilitating. On a wait list for a re-diagnosis, could be 5 years apparently. So the body had that coat of automobile primer and then everything else had a white base coat. The limbs of my slain foes. Apparently I managed to get a pair of gloves on. Wait, no, singular glove. The body, which had that layer of putty, gets a sand. This is the best part of spray putty. It fills in cracks and imperfections and then you can sand it back. I love how ridiculously post-apocalyptic this looks. So I'm doing the white coat first because with the Swan Lake doll I really had quite a lot of trouble getting everything the same colour. As you know, I hate pastel blushing, so what I did was had to go with my airbrush. So I mixed up quite a dark skin tone kind of accidentally, and then I put that on first, kind of where I would normally blush, and then after I did the lighter skin tone, so darks first then the lights. I think it looked so good. One of my viewers said that they've been using Caran d'Ache. I tried the super colour, which I really liked, but I don't think that's... It might be professional quality, not sure. Anyway, the Museum Aquarelle are supposed to be the best, I think, and I decided that I wanted to try those. Instead of buying sets recently, I've just been kind of picking the colours that I know I'll use in quite a lot of face-ups. So, like pinks and browns, whites, blacks, greys, that kind of thing. Another viewer asked if I could kind of explain like what I do with a face up, and I guess I can try, but I'm not sure how great a job I'm going to do. I feel like I'm struggling with my face ups recently, so before I start doing the face up I always have a look at reference. So for this doll I looked at EmBrenn365 on TikTok. She's fantastic. She dresses as a queen and does like, she looks animated, literally like a Disney character come to life. She's absolutely adorable, and she has these kind of like bright, shocked looking eyes while still being quite cute. So that's kind of what I wanted to capture with the Magikarp, because Magikarp looks kind of shocked with an open mouth, but I didn't want her to look scared. I don't often paint an open mouth on a doll. I think this is only the second time, and the first time I ended up repainting anyway. Because I'm doing that open mouth, I'm adding a lot more contour to her lip. So on the first layer, I'll try and plan where everything is. So I'll always do the eye shape. I'll put the irises in, and then I'll get the first layer of the eyebrows down, and I always do the first layer of the eyebrows with pastel. I cannot do eyebrows without a kneaded eraser. I have to put down the pastel and then take it back off to get the shape. Like, I have no idea how people do it without. I think this is actually the second layer. I'll usually spray after I've got the eyebrows where I want, so that I don't erase them again. So the contour I do down the sides of her nose and underneath her brows, just to bring back some shape to the sculpt, because the sculpts are all one colour, they can end up looking quite flat. And I'm also adding the first layer of blush, so when I do blush I'll put quite a pale colour down first. I think I used a very pale pink, and then I'll add a bright magenta and usually a bright red, because I find that if you do it that way it'll be much easier to blend in. This time I did her blush in a C shape around her eyes. This is what EmBrenn365 does. It's not normally where I would put blush, but it's kind of a cute, youthful makeup look. So in terms of the sclera, I know that some people do them bright white. I think that looks lovely. It's very stylized though. What I am trying to do with my work is to kind of go a bit more towards realism, which means that if you shade the scleras, they look a lot more rounded. In terms of highlights, I like to highlight the Cupid's bow, the tip of the nose and the nostrils, and then also just like around the inner corner of the eye. There's a couple of dolls I forgot to do this on, and I think it makes a huge difference. It looks less lifelike. Some of that 3D definition is lost, I think. I was struggling to get the pencils to lay down well on this, so I switched over to gouache on about layer 3. I tend to do about 6 layers, not sure. It totally depends. It just depends how much colour I can get laid down and whether I need to correct something. So something I've started doing recently is adding quite subtle lines to the doll's lips. I try and do this quite early because I want to then go over it to make it even more subtle. I saw this on quite a lot of BJDs. I look at a lot of artists and I look at what I like that they do and try it. If it works with my art, then I'll keep it. If it doesn't, I'll not. There are a lot of things that I think are really beautiful that don't look great when I do them or don't fit the style I'm going through. I'm still really trying to get eyebrows the way I want them. I'm not quite getting it. One thing that's kind of different when you do a colour change is that it's a lot easier to correct a mistake by just overpainting rather than taking it off. Because the acetone will take off everything back down to the vinyl, I really don't want to re-airbrush this doll because it would be quite difficult to colour match her to her body. With eyes, I've started kind of doing like a gradient, but then with quite a bright colour down on the lower portion of the iris. This kind of makes the eyes look a lot more glowy. And I don't often use black within an iris anymore. So instead I'm using the red to draw her pupils and for definition. I always put on quite a lot of pastel and then take it off with a kneaded eraser and then blend it in. So the pencils still weren't gripping very well on the surface when I was trying to do these lashes. I thought I was kind of nearly done with this doll, but yeah, I didn't like how the lashes were looking, and my advice would always be to wipe it off. I would always seal before doing lashes because they're difficult, so just wash them off, right? I apparently didn't seal properly and it took off everything that I'd painted on the eyes. So in a second it's going to look like we've gone backwards, and we technically have. I like accidentally literally washed all of the progress off. With gouache you need to kind of work with it quite thin. You need to add water to the point that it flows well but doesn't pool with water. I've heard of artists having issues with gouache cracking, and I'm pretty sure this is if you're applying it quite heavily. Like, you can't apply it in the same way you would apply acrylic because it's not as flexible. So here we go, just doing exactly the same thing again because I wiped it all off. On the previous layers I'd probably added too much anyway, so I put some metallic yellow in the bottom of her irises and then added back that really pastel glowy colour. Just did the whole thing again. Faddy. So when I redid the lashes, I did them in the same way. I draw them, soggy cat, with a brown, and then I'll go over them with a brown gouache with a super tiny pink brush. I heard that if you're right-handed you'll tend to be able to do the right side of anything easier, so you should do the left first, and I always forget. So like, it would be easier to copy the left side onto the right rather than doing your good side and then trying to replicate it on the bad side. I used a pale pink over the lips to kind of soften those lines that I did earlier. and then adding more highlights to the lips. I'm using Pearl Macro Pearl. I also gave her some rose gold shimmer. I'm not sure where that footage went. I'm trying to do a little bit less in terms of catchlight, so she's just having a tiny smidgelet. I'm not sure what happened, but there were some marks or chips in the paint. I touched them up with the skin tone I had, but I only had the light skin tone, so where it had happened in the darker parts I couldn't fix it, so I decided to give her Freckles to kind of mask that. On her body I used the toothbrush spatter method because I think it's a lot easier to cover quite a big portion of the body doing it that way, but then on her face I used a paintbrush. The absolute best thing about Creator Monster is that you don't need to heat up the head to get it back onto the doll. It just pops straight on and off pretty easily. I actually painted a spare hand for this doll so that she'd be able to do different poses. This is something that I think I want to start doing more often with my dolls. I was talking to somebody about wig caps and why bother making them. So if you have kind of an elaborate style or you want to deal with the hair and the head separately, I find that making a wig cap is a good idea. Like, you're not going to mess up the hair while you're doing the face up or vice versa. Otherwise I'd just stick it straight to the head, to be honest. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments whether you like human mode or mermaid mode more. I am in love with her jacket. I think human mode is my favourite just because of that jacket. So the weather in the UK has been horrific. I think it's been raining solidly for about 6 weeks. Okay, not really, it's like 10 minutes a day, but any excuse to not have to go and find somewhere to take photos. So I can't get to a Pokemon gym or a beach, so I thought I'd have a go at green screen. Let me know how I did with the green screen photos as well. Like, comment, subscribe, do all those good YouTube things for me. I appreciate it all. It gives me a big hit of dopamine, which genuinely helps my ADHD because I'm not allowed the drugs. Big shout out to my patrons. Thank you always for your support. Super appreciate it. With special thanks to Camilla. You are awesome, all of you, and I appreciate all of you so much. Thank you always. So check my links in the description. There'll be the patterns, Patreon, Instagram, and thank you again for watching, and I hope I see you in the next one, and that this dodgy green screen doesn't put you off. I failed, I don't know, I need help on this one. Thanks again everybody, see you soon, bye!